I consider this disloyal, Victoria said, her voice like ice, as she stared at me from behind her imposing mahogany desk. After everything Harbor Point Comontic has done for you, I said across from her, clutching my purse tightly to stop my hands from shaking. Shock of being called into Harifax at 9 o'clock a.m. on a Tuesday had worn off, replaced by a heavy knot and stomach as I realized what washapening Victoria. I know she cut me off, her perfectly manicured nail tapping an printed email. Don't bother denying it. I have confirmation you interviewed with North Bay Solutions last Thursday. You took a half day for a dental appointment. I believe my name is Addison Walker. I'm 31 years old and have dedicated 6 years off me professional life to Harbor Point Communications here in Spokane, Washington. In those 6 years, I've tripled me client portfolio, brought in millions in revenue, and earned the respect of every major account in our roster. But apparently none of that mattered. No security will meet you at your desk. You can collect your personal belongings, but your building access is revoked immediately. Victoria's voice was emotionless as she slid my company ID across her desk. I've already disabled your mail assist. The injustice of it burned in Micah's 3 years, 3 consecutive years. I'd come to this same office with meticulously prepared presentation showing my achievements, market rate, salary comparisons, and requests for a well-deserved raise. 3 years of tough budget year excuses. While Victoria announced record profits at quarterly meetings, I took a deep breath and stood up, straightening my blazer. You understand? Victoria looked almost disappointed by my calm response. Perhaps she'd expected tears or pleading. Instead, I extended my hand across the desk. Wish you in Harbor Point continue Edsus, I said, my voice steady despite the emotional turmoil inside. She hesitated before briefly shaking my hand, confusion flickering across her face as the security guard hovered awkwardly by my desk while I packed my family photos and 6 years of desk plants into a cardboard box. I felt surprisingly calm. Colleagues shot concerned glances my way, but I smiled reassuringly at them. No drama, no scenes, just dignity. Walking out of those glass doors for the last time, the April sunshine warm on my face, I realized something important. Victoria thought she was punishing me. She couldn't have been more wrong. As I placed the box in my car trunk, my phone buzzed with a message from David Klein, CEO of North Bay Solutions. Can we move our final discussion to today to p.m. I smiled. Victoria had no idea what was coming. It's funny how 6 years of your life can fit into a single cardboard box. As I drove home from Harbor Point, the box secure in my trunk, I reflected one everything that had led to this moment. He joined the company fresh out of graduate school, eager and determined. Despite my marketing degree from Washington State University, I'd started in an entry-level position, making coffee runs and organizing meeting notes, but I worked tirelessly, staying late, volunteering for the difficult projects nobody wanted, and building relationships with clients who others had written off as too demanding. Within 2 years, I was handling our mid-tier accounts. By year 4, I'd been entrusted with North Bay Solutions, our largest client, worth nearly 30% off Harbor Point's annual revenue. David Klein, North Bay's CEO, specifically recruited me as their account manager after I'd stepped in during a crisis when their previous representative drove the ball. You're the only one who seems to understand what we need before we even ask, he'd told me from then on. The relationship between our companies flourished, with North Bay extending their contract and doubling their marketing budget with us. Victoria had been pleased then. This is the Kindoff initiative we value, she'd said. Thought that value never translated to my compensation. My first request for a raise came after that success, armed with performance metrics and revenue numbers that spoke for themselves. It's just not in the budget this year, Victoria had explained with a rehearsed look of regret. But your contribution is noted. I accepted it then. The economy had been uncertain and I was still building me portfolio, but the following year, after bringing in 3 new major clients and receiving an industry award for a campaign I'd designed, the same ends where came next year will be better. Shepromise, we just need to tighten our belts a little longer. Meanwhile, Victoria drove to work in a new luxury SUV and the company liaised an additional floor in our building for expansion. Still, I remained loyal, believing that dedication would eventually be rewarded. The third denial came 6 months ago, right after I'd successfully negotiated a 40% increase in North Bay's annual contract value. Your performance is exceptional, Victoria had said, but we're investing in infrastructure this year. Perhaps we can revisit this in Thesamer. Something in me had Finalibrican that night. I updated my resume for the first time in 6 years, not out of fanger or revenge, but out of self-respect. I was worth more than constant promises and perpetual denial. I just never expected Victoria will discover my job search. Before I was ready to give Minitus at home, I set the cardboard box on my kitchen counter and stared at the reality of what had just happened finally hitting me. I wasn't just between meetings or taking a day off. I wasn't employed. The weight of it pressed against my chest, momentarily making it difficult to breathe. My phone rang, displaying my best friend Olivia. I just heard, she said when he answered. Thomas texted me, "Are you okay?" Thomas was Harbor's ID specialist and Olivia's boyfriend. News traveled fast. "I'm processing," I replied, honest, linking onto a kitchen stool. "It happened so quickly, it's completely unfair," Olivia said, her voice rising with indignation. "Everyone knows you're the only reason North Bay has stayed with Harbor Point this long. Victoria is just intimidated because you're better at the job than she ever was." There was some truth to that. Victoria had been the company's star account executive before moving into management. Many of us suspected she missed their recognition and client relationships, often inserting herself unnecessarily into my meetings with North Bay. "The worst part is how she did it," I said, feeling a flash of anger, like I'd committed some kind of corporate treason. "Be looking for opportunities after Bindonite advancement for 3 years straight. It's her loss," Olivia replied firmly. "And honestly, Addison, maybe it's for the best. You've been undervalued there. 4 years." She was right. Of course, I'd stayed at Harbor Point out of loyalty to my clients and colleagues, not because it was the best choice for my career. But getting fired like this, escorted out by security as if I were a criminal, that stung deeply. My phone beeped with an incoming call. "David Clean, Olivia, I need to take this. It's North Bay. Go take it. Call me after," she said before hanging up. I took a deep breath and answered, "Addison, I just heard what happened at Harbor Point," David said, skipping pleasantries. "Are you available to come in today? I'd like to accelerate our conversation." My heart raced. "Yes, I can. There at PM as you suggested." "Excellent. And Addison, don't worry about what happened this morning. Sometimes these things have a way of working out for the best." After hanging up, I stared at my reflection in the kitchen window. The woman looking back at me wasn't defeated. She was being set free, showered, and changed into my best suit, the one reserved for pitching new clients. As he applied my makeup, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Victoria thought she had punished me by firing me so abruptly, but perhaps she had done me a favor. That morning had been humiliating, but I'd also been clarifying. I had given Harbor Point my loyalty, creativity, and countless unpaid overtime hours. In return, I'd been undervalued and discarded. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain: I would never again give my best to people who couldn't see my worth. It was time to step into my power. North Bay Solutions headquarters occupied the top 3 floors of a gleaming glass building in downtown Spokane. Unlike Harbor Point's state office with its beige walls and agging furniture, North Bay embraced modern dozen open spaces, collaborative pods, and walls of windows showcasing mountain views. As I rode the elevator to the 30th floor, I mentally rehearsed what I would say in my interview. I'd need to explain me sudden availability without sounding bitter about Harbor Point. Professionalism was key even when discussing uncomfortable presentation. The elevator doors opened to reveal David Clean himself waiting in the reception area. "Addison," he greeted me warmly, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming in such short notice." David was in his early 50s with salt and pepper hair and a reputation for buying both brilliant and fair qualities I'd come to appreciate during our 3 years of working together. "I appreciate the flexibility," I replied, shaking his hand firmly. "It's been an unexpected day. Let's talk in my office," he said, leading me through the bustling workspace. Several North Bay employees I knew from our account work waved or nodded as we passed. David's corner office was modest compared to Victoria's showpiece beauty, infinitely more welcoming with comfortable seating ranged for conversation rather than intimidation. "Coffee?" he offered, "please, aunts." We were settled with steaming mugs. David got straight to the point. "You received a call from Victoria Sanderste's morning," he began. "She informed me that you would no longer be handling the North Bay account and that she would personally oversee your business until a replacement was assigned." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral despite the small flare of anger. Of course, Victoria would try Torton, their biggest client herself. "What she doesn't know," David continued, "is that we were already concerned about our relationship with Harbor Point. This surprised me. Concerned the latest campaign results exceeded projections by 23. The results were excellent," he agreed, "because of your work, but we've noticed changes at Harbor Point over the past year. Delayed responses, quality issues with anyone except you, and frankly a sense that they're taking our business for granted." He set down his coffee mug and leaned forward. "3 months ago, our board suggests we explore other marketing partners." I resisted. "Because of our relationship with you, you've consistently demanded an understanding of our brand and business needs that goes beyond the typical client-agency relationship." My mind raced. Was he saying what I thought he was saying when you reached out about potential opportunities here? David continued. "It felt like perfect timing, but I need to be clear about something. We're never planning to poach you. We respect professional boundaries too much for that. We were prepared to wait until you gave proper notice at Harbor Point." "I was planning to give 2 weeks notice," I said, feeling it was important. "Knew that once I had a firm offer." David smiled. "I believe you. Your professionalism is one of the reasons we're having this conversation. Victoria's decision this morning simply accelerated our timeline." He opened a folder on his desk and slid a document across. "Tom, this isn't an interview, Addison. It's a job offer. Director of Client Strategy. You'd be building and leading a team to manage all our external marketing partnerships and agency relations." I glanced down at the paper and my breath caught when I saw the salary figure. It was nearly double what I'd been making at Harbor Point, more than I would have even asked for in my most recent denied raise request. "This is very generous. I managed its market rate for someone with your experience and proven results," David corrected. "Sometimes it takes leaving a situation to realize what you're truly worth." The offer letter sat on my kitchen table that evening, signed and ready to return tomorrow. I'd asked David fortnight to review everything, though Webbeth knew my answer would be yes. Still taking time to consider major decisions was a professional courtesy he extended even when the answer seemed obvious. My phone had been buzzing all afternoon with texts from former colleagues at Harbor Point. Word of my firing had spread quickly, followed by rumors about my meeting at North Bay. I'd responded to a few close co-workers but avoided getting drawn into a physicisip. A text from Thomas came through. "Victoria called an emergency meeting after you left, told everyone you were terminated for breach of company loyalty, on that we should all remember Thatherboard Point rewards loyalty above all." The irony wasn't lost on anybody. I shook my head. Victoria was trying to make an example of me, but from Thomas' message it seemed her approach might be backfiring. Another text arrived, this one from Jessica, a receptionist. "She's been locked in her office making calls all afternoon. Looks stressed. Gasomion's worried about North Bay." I didn't respond. There was no satisfaction in Victoria's distress, only a renewed certainty that I'd made the right decision to look elsewhere. A company culture that valued loyalty, beautified nothing in return, wasn't one I wanted to be part of anymore. My phone rang. An unknown number. "Curious," he answered. "Edison Walker," a woman's voice. "Speaking, this is Elaine Winterseam on the board at Harbor Point." Comantic. My stomach tightened. Board members rarely involve themselves with employmenters. "I understand there was an incident today regarding your employment," she continued. "I'd like to meet with you tomorrow to discuss it." Victoria may have been hasty in her decision, so that was it. Victoria had fired her most valuable account manager with it board approval, and now North Bay was potentially walking damage control. "I appreciate the call, Miss Winters, but I've already accepted another position," I said, keeping my tone respectful but firm. A pause. "May I ask where?" "I don't think that will be appropriate to share at this time." Another longer pause. "Addison, if this is about compensation, I'm sure we can revisit those conversations. The board values your contribution to Harbor Point." The irony was almost painful. 3 years of documented rejected requests for appropriate compensation, and now suddenly the board valued my contribution. "It's not just about compensation," I replied. Honestly, it is about respect and recognizing employee worth before they have one foot out the door. Perhaps we should discuss this in person, she pressed. Tomorrow morning. I thought about it. While I had no intention of returning to Harbor Point, there was something to be said for professional crisis. I can meet at 9 o'clock a.m. I agreed, but to be clear, I've signed an employment contract elsewhere. I'm not coming to negotiate. A reader understood, Elaine said, though her tone suggested she didn't believe me. I'll see you tomorrow at our offices. After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped onto my apartment balcony. The spring evening was cool but pleasant, the city lights beginning to twinkle as dusk settled. Tomorrow would bring a conversation I hadn't anticipated having, but perhaps it was necessary, a chance to articulate what had gone wrong at Harbor Point, not just for my own closure but as feedback that might benefit those who remained. My phone buzzed with an email notification from David. Clean subject line: welcome to the team. Whatever happened tomorrow? I knew one thing for certain: I wasn't looking back. The Harbor Point reception area felt strange to enter as a visitor. Jessica's eyes widened when she saw my professional smile faltering. Addison, you're here for the meeting with Ms. Winters? That's right, I confirmed, signing the visitor log. Another surreal moment. I'll let her know you've arrived, Jessica said, then lowered her voice. For what it's worth, everyone's talking about how wrong this was. You were the best of us. Her words warmed me. Thank you, Jessica. The elevator ride to the conference room gave me a moment to center myself. I had dressed professionally in a navy suit, not to impress but to remind myself and everyone else that I was approaching this meeting as an equal, not as a dismissed employee seeking redemption. Elaine Winters was already waiting when he arrived, a slim folder in front of her. In her 60s, with silver hair cut in a precise bob, she had the poised confidence of someone used to making million-dollar decisions. Before breakfast, Miss Walker, thank you for coming, she said, standing to shake my hand. Please have a seat. I expected Victoria to join us, but as Elaine closed at the door, it became clear this would be a private conversation. I've reviewed your personnel file, Elaine began, opening the folder. 6 years of excellent performance reviews, consistent growth in your account portfolio, and 3 formal requests for salary adjustment, all denied. She looked up at me. I was not aware of this pattern. This surprised me. I assumed compensation decisions were reviewed at board level. Major compensation changes, yes, but management has discretion within certain parameters. Ella's expression remained neutral, but her tone suggested as April. Victoria has been operating with significant autonomy. I see what I don't see, she continued. Is documentation justifying your termination yesterday? There's no company policy prohibiting interviews with other organizations. I kept my response. Measured, the word used was disloyal. Elaine's eyebrow arched slightly. An interesting choice given the circumstances. She closed the folder. Ms. Walker, I'll be direct. The board would like to offer your reinstatement with the adjusted compensation you requested in your last review, plus a 10% increase. And the Titleaf senior account director, the offer was better than anything Victoria had been willing to consider, but it came 3 years and 1 humiliating dismissal too late. That's a generous offer, he acknowledged, but as I mentioned on the phone, I've already accepted a position elsewhere at North Bay Solutions, Elaine stated, not asking. I didn't confirm. Ordinary maintaining professional bounty and my new role begins Monday. Yellen studied me for a moment. Victoria is concerned North Bay may reconsider their relationship with Harbor Point given your departure, and there it was the real reason for this meeting, not concern for how I'd be untreated, but fear of losing a major client. That would be a question for North Bay, I replied carefully. Indeed, Elaine nodded, seeming to appreciate my discretionless question. If I may, what could Harbor Point have done differently toward you? The question was unexpected but welcome. I took a moment to consider. My response recognized my value before I had to look elsewhere to find it. I said simply, loyalty works both ways, Miss Winters. Harbor Point expected unwavering commitment while repeated light. I wasn't worth investing in. That creates an unsustainably mobile. Elaine nodded thoughtfully. A fair assessment. She stood, extending her hand. Thank you for your candor. Whatever your next steps, I wish you success. Walking out of Harbor Point for the second and final time, I felt lighter than I had in years. This meeting hadn't been about giving me a second chance, it had been about giving me a chance to reclaim my narrative, to leave on my terms with my dignity and professional repute I'd been granted. An unexpected Monday morning arrived with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. My new position at North Bay Solutions officially began today, and with it a fresh chapter in my professional life. I arrived early, to settle into my new office, a real office with a door and windows, not the cramped cubicle I'd occupied at Harbor Point. Despite my senior role, David had arranged for everything to be ready, including a welcome basket and technology setup at 9 o'clock a.m. He stopped me to introduce me to my new team, 5 talented marketing specialists who would be working under my direction to manage North Bay's various agency relationships. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd gone from managing a single account to overseeing all marketing partners, including whoever would now handle the Harbor Point relationship team. This is Addison Walker, our new Director of Client Strategy, David. Many of you already know her from her exceptional work at Harbor Point. We're fortunate to have her expertise in-house. Now, after introductions and a brief team meeting to outline priorities, David asked me to join him in the conference room. There I found several members of North Bay's executive team gathered around the table. Before you dive in completely, David explained, we wanted your input on an important decision. The company's chief financial officer spoke up. In light of recent changes, we're re-evaluating our relationship with Harbor Communication. She contract is up for renewal next month. We value your perspective, added the chief marketing officer. You understand our needs and have first-hand knowledge of Harbor Point's capabilities. I could have easily recommended terminating the relationship. A swift, satisfying revenge against Victoria. The opportunity to deal a significant financial blow to Harbor Point was right in front of me. No one would question it. Business relationships and all the time. But that wasn't who I was. Revenge might feel good momentarily, but professionalism would serve me better in the long run. I think we should evaluate Harbor Point on the same criteria as any other potential partner. He said carefully. Their work has been strong, but consistency and account management will be critical factors to consider moving forward. The email was sent at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, precisely 1 week after Victoria had fired me from Harbor Point. He hadn't orchestrated the timing. It was simply when North Bay's executive team finalized their decision. After reviewing proposals from 3 competing agencies, David had given me the courtesy of seeing the email before it went out. How I had recused myself from the final decision to avoid any appearance of bias or impropriety. The message was professional and direct. After careful consideration of our marketing needs moving forward, North Bay Solutions has decided to transition our account to Meridian Creative effective immediately. This decision reflects our evolving brand strategy and digital requirements. Addison Walker, our new Director of Client Strategy, will oversee transition and serve as your point of contact. We appreciate our partnership and request all materials be transferred by end of business free day. Imagine Victoria's reaction upon receiving the news. The shock, then the dawning realization of what had happened. Not only had she lost me, but no, she had lost North Bay, a client representing nearly 30% of Harbor Point's annual revenue. And I would be the one managing the transition. The perfect professional revenge had fallen into my lap without my having to orchestrate. I hadn't needed to badmouth Harbor Point or sabotage the relationship. The company's own shortcomings, highlighted by my departure, had done that for method afternoon. I received a LinkedIn request from Jessica, Harbor Point's reception, followed by a private message. The office is chaos. Victoria's been in emergency meetings all day. 3 their account managers have updated their resumes. Karma works fasty didn't reply immediately. There was none to gloat or insert myself into Harbor Point's internal affairs. Instead, I focused on building my new team and establishing our processes. Success, after all, was the best revenge. Later, however, it did accept Jessica's connection request with a simple message. Thank you for your kindness during my time at Harbor Point wishing you all the best. Taking the high road felt surprisingly good. My new position at North Bay brought challenges and opportunities I would never have experienced had I remained at Harbor Point, waiting for recognition that might never come. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't something you actively pursue. It's the natural consequence of valuing yourself when others don't. Looking back on that journey a year later, I realized that Victoria had inadvertently given me a precious gift push I needed to find my true worth in. Seeking revenge, I found something far more valuable: self-respect and the courage to claim the success I deserved.